Tell me if you've ever been here. You're writing a huge scene, your hero is finally confronting the evil villain that he thinks betrayed the whole town, but your dialogue sounds a little less like Clash of the Titans and a little bit more like two guys disagreeing over a parking spot. It probably sounds something like this. Your hero: I know it was you. You were the one who leaked the battle plans. The villain: you cannot prove that. Your accusations are baseless and you have no evidence. Hero: the evidence is the countless lives that were lost. I will make you pay for this. The villain: you will fail. My plan is already in motion and you're too late to stop it. End of the scene. Okay, so what is the problem here? Well, first of all, it's completely boring. It kind of falls flat, right? There's no tension here. And if we actually stripped away their names, we didn't have the hero, we didn't have the villain, you couldn't tell who was speaking. This is the #1 symptom of mistakes that writers make when they're writing dialogue, and it kills countless novels. And this is that there is no difference between one character and the other. All characters sound the same, and worse, they all sound like you, the writer. Today I'm going to talk about why that happens and how to solve that problem. So let's get started.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Julia Monte channel. Thank you for being here, for just meeting. I am Julia Monte. I'm a women's fiction author, and I'm here to share some tips with you. So let's talk about this problem with dialogue, where your characters aren't distinguished and when they all sound the same. Now here is the problem. You are trying to get your character from point A to point B, right? So you know that this is what has to happen. So what do? Well, you make them speak. Character A says something, character B says something, and that's dialogue. And another thing that you probably know is that your dialogue has to move your story forward. So you're thinking, well, we're moving the story forward by having the characters say certain things that that the reader needs to know. But that's not the way that you want to do it. You don't want your characters to become little puppets just saying what you, the author, want them to say. In other words, you don't want them to be your mouthpiece. There has to be a threat, so you have character A speak and threaten character B. Character B, the villain, denies the whole thing. Character A says, no, I know you did it, right? So that's not the way that we want our dialogue to be. We don't want the characters just simply following our outline just to get us to where we need to be. It needs to be realistic. So I picture it this way. When I read my dialogue and I see that this is happening, I'm thinking, okay, well, let's see. I'm picking up my hero mask and I'm putting that on, and I'm saying what I need that hero to say. And now I'm done and I'm taking that mask off. I'm putting on the villain mask and now I'm saying what that villain is saying. But they're all sounding like me. So when that happens, when I read my dialogue and I see that that's happening, that's when I need to go, wait a minute. What does this character want? What does the hero want? What does he fear? What are his goals? And the same thing for the villain, because if I don't ask myself these questions, what's going to happen is it's going to all be my voice. It's going to sound all monotonous and it's going to be boring. It's really going to kill my dialogue. So we have to stop doing that. And so how do we do that? What's the solution? And it's really easy. We just cut those puppet strings. We just don't have puppets anymore. We have actual breathing characters that sound like themselves. For a character to sound like themselves, you really almost have to forget what it is that you want as the author. As the author, I need all these points in my novel to be hit, right? And I know that in the back of my head. I have my outline. Whether I am a plotter or not, I know where I want my character to go, and I'm simply trying to get them there. But I need to stop doing that. And so what you want to do is to have your characters ask them what they want. What is it that they need? Your villain doesn't want to confess. Your villain probably doesn't even think he's a villain. He thinks that he's doing the right thing. So each character has to speak for themselves. And you want to answer this one question. And that is, what is that immediate intent of this conversation for each character? What does each character want out of this interaction. And it's not the big like overarching goal. So it's not like, oh yeah, this character wants to save the world. This character wants to find, who killed who, right? So it's not the big ones. We obviously know that, but out from the just micro, right? The little interaction where this dialogue is taking place. What does each character want from this interaction? So maybe it's an argument between two lovers. Well, maybe character A wants character B to apologize, and maybe character B doesn't want to apologize. Maybe they want to avoid blame. So what is it that they want as they're speaking to each other? So don't think of dialogue as just information. Yes, we are giving the reader information, but it's not just information. Dialogue is action. Something is happening. It's a tool that people use to get what they want. So we want to give our characters clear, immediate, and often conflicting intention. And once you do that, you'll start to notice that the voices of the characters actually start to distinguish, right? They start to sound different because each one wants something different, and each one is going to approach how to get that in a different way. One person may be manipulative. Another person may be kind and sweet to get what they want. Everybody's going to be a little different, but you want to think about what it is that their goal is in this scene. When you do that, the characters are no longer working to serve your plot. They're working to get what they want and to accomplish their goals. And you'll start to notice that now your dialogue has the things that dialogue should have. It has tension. It has subtext. It sounds authentic. It sounds like the character is speaking, not like you're speaking. And with this little one shift, what happens is now it stops sounding like you are telling a story, and it sounds more like two characters on a stage actually performing the scene, right? They're actually performing, they're actually acting like themselves. Now let's remember what good dialogue looks and sounds like. Good dialogue helps us to reveal character. It helps us to move the story forward, but not because the character is following your plot, but because the characters are following their goals. So it shows us like who these characters are. What is their education? What is their age? What is their worldview? And through that, you're going to, that their speech is going to show us who they are as people. So compare these two dialogues, okay, very short. I don't think that's a good idea. I think we should reconsider. Okay, one person might say that. Then somebody else might say, you want to do what, when? Nah, forget about it. Okay, so what's the difference? Well, it's just the way that it reflects who that person is. It might reflect their age. It might reflect their background of how they grew up, or how other people speak, or what part of the country they're from. It's going to be different. So think of this. Ask yourself these questions here. Could you remove the dialogue tags, the he said and the he and she says, and still know who's talking? If you can't, there's a problem. Does like your shy character speak differently, maybe a little bit more muted than somebody who dominates a conversation? Would your sarcastic character say something super romantic? Maybe they would, but what would be the occasion? You'd have to show why. Could someone read a little bit of your dialogue and identify who the speaker is without any names? So you want all of that to be clear, so that way you are distinguishing who the character is. All right, so let's go back to that first example that I gave you. Okay, the villain and the hero, he's destroyed the town, he's betrayed the town. Let's write this from the perspective of each character, of the villain and of the hero. So let's call the hero Kayleen, and let's call the evil bad guy Lord Malachor. Okay, so the first time they sounded like just cardboard characters. It was boring. It wasn't interesting. There was no tension, none of that. So let's try fixing that now. We're going to say that Kayleen wants Lord Malachor to admit that he has betrayed their village or their town, right? He wants him to say he did it. Of course, Lord Malachor does not want that. So he probably realizes that he's under suspicion. He doesn't want to admit it. He actually probably wants to, in this conversation, find out exactly what Kayleen knows. So rather than admitting anything, he wants to find out, well, what does this guy actually know? What does he think he knows that I did? So let's just say those are the two things. That's what they want, right? So one wants an admission, one wants to just kind of figure out what's going on here. What does this guy know? he doesn't want to admit anything, and he doesn't want to defend himself. He just wants to find out what in the world this guy thinks he did. So let's start it. So Kayleen comes in, he slams a map on the table. The supply lines through the northern pass, ambushed an hour ago, exactly like you planned. Malachor doesn't even glance at the map. He does something else. He swirls some wine. He does something. He's moving around, right? He's not paying attention to Kayleen. The northern pass is notoriously treacherous. I trust you had it well garrisoned. Kayleen says, don't play games with me, Malachor. Only 3 people knew this route. Me, the general, and you. Malachor finally looks at him. And we can put whatever we want in there, some amusement, some pity in his eyes, something, right? So we have some kind of description of what he looks like. And he says, the general, a good man, but he carries the weight of this entire war on his shoulders. A weight like that can make a man careless. Did his orders seem perfectly sound to you? So he's kind of shifting the blame a little bit. Okay, so we can end there, right? We can just say, all right, that's the conversation at this point, right? So he's trying to create what? He's trying to create some doubt. He's trying to find out what Kayleen really knows here. There's tension in the scene. We know that Kayleen is angry. He's slamming the map. He's saying, hey, I know you did this, right? He's actually blaming him. He's pushing him more, and Malachor is just deflecting the whole thing. He's just kind of planting some doubt. Well, maybe it could be this other guy, right? Why are you saying it's me? So it depends on our whole story. I don't usually write these kind of stories. I write romances and women's fiction. So, but I've read a lot of these, and so what happens? The bad guy is being kind of deceptive. He's deflecting. He's kind of being a little slick here. But the point is, neither one of them sound like the other, right? One of them sounds angry and accusatory. The other one is sounding a little bit more reserved. He's waiting. They sound different, and that's what you want for your dialogue. Now, one of the cool things that can happen when you do this, when you let the characters really decide where this is going, is that you may actually end up going in a different direction. So why is Malachor deflecting this? Is it because he's guilty, or is it because he's not guilty? Why is he probing or saying that it could be the general? Maybe because it is the general, right? So as an author, some of the cool things that happen sometimes when we let our characters speak is that we may find out, well, wait a minute, this could be a really great twist. Maybe Malachor really isn't the bad guy, right? Maybe he's looking suspicious, and plus we want him to look suspicious so that the reader suspects him. But maybe what's happening here is that it's really not him. Maybe it's allowing us to add a little subtext here. Maybe Malachor is just protecting himself. Maybe he's really just a pawn of the general. The general's making him look like he is the villain when he actually isn't. Or there could be other things. Maybe somebody has threatened his family, and so that's why he is kind of deflecting here, or not pointing fingers, or he is pointing fingers, but he's not pointing it at himself. So there could be other things happening. So when we allow these characters to actually speak and actually add layers and complexity to the characters, it makes them more interesting, and it makes your dialogue more interesting. And it might help you as the author realize really what the storyline really is. So you might have an outline and then realize, oh wait, this is even more interesting because the character told me, right? The character led me in this direction. And it's kind of fun as an author when that happens. So let me say before I go on that if you are enjoying this video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel so you'll get more videos because this will help me. Okay, so let's keep going. Now that we know how to fix that one problem, I want to give you a few other tips about how to improve your dialogue. And one might be one you've heard before. The first one is just to create a character profile. You really want to get to know your character well before you start making him speak. So who is he? What does he want? How does he speak? Does he tend to ramble? Does he tend to say certain things? Does he have some kind of figure of speech that he uses a lot? So just write down some things, not so much about, well, you could write about his personality, but we want to know like how does this person speak? How does he get things across? Does he use cliches? Things like that. Something else that you can do that helps a lot when you are rereading dialogue is to read it out loud so that you can hear how your character sounds. If your character doesn't sound well, then it's probably you probably want to rewrite it. Maybe it's hard for the reader to actually to picture the character saying this or to even to read it because it doesn't flow well. So read it out loud and see how it sounds. The next thing is to study real speech, but don't copy it. So real speech tends to be rambling. People say things that they're just chit-chatting, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really have a purpose. And we want our dialogue to always have purpose, right? There's a reason that they're saying certain things. So, you know, they're also not very direct, right? So somebody who's falling in love may not say, hey, I love you, right? Immediately. They may hold back for certain reasons. Maybe they're a little shy. Maybe they don't know how the other person feels yet. So they may test things out and say certain things to see how the other person feels. So it's not going to be direct. Also, sometimes there is silence, and that's important because with dialogue, what isn't said is just as important as what really is said. So there could be silences. A person may not respond immediately. They may think about what they're going to say before they say something. Sometimes people will go on monologues. They'll start talking about something and then go on and on forever. And so you want to be careful with those kind of things in actual story dialogue, right? So study how people say things so you get some ideas, but you don't want to really imitate them. The next thing is word choice. So choose your words specifically, right? To take your time and decide what words you want to use because it needs to match that character's vocabulary. Somebody may have a very elevated way of speaking, somebody may not. So you just want to make sure that you're choosing the words that that person would use, not the ones that you would use, but the ones that the character would use. The next thing is that you want to pay attention to the nonverbal communication. So physically, what are the characters doing? How are they emphasizing what they're saying with their body language? We say a lot with our body, with our facial expressions, with our hands. So you want to do that. Not that you want to write down every single movement that the character does, but what are they doing? So like Malachor could have been picking up a wine glass, right? Why? Because it gives him a second to pause and not respond to what Kayleen is saying. He's just kind of hanging out. He's doing something else. He might have been writing something. He might have been holding a pen. But you want to give them some movement, something physical to do that matches their dialogue or contradicts their dialogues, because sometimes they will do that. And another thing, I've said this before in previous videos, but he said, she said is perfectly okay, or asked. We don't need all these different adjectives to describe. You describe them physically. Don't, she said this kindly or nicely. No, just show that with the way that she speaks or the way that she moves. Stick with he said, she said. It blends into the novel. The reader doesn't really notice that it's there, and it works really well. When you're using other types of adjectives to show emotion, that's usually why we do that, then it's not, the writing isn't as strong. Show the emotion. You're instead of telling the reader, right, you're showing the emotion. So show the emotion rather than tell the emotion. So no for she said angrily, okay? Show us her being angry. Okay, so here is the challenge for you. Take one of the scenes that you have written that has dialogue and ask yourself before you do anything, or a scene that you're going to write might be better than one that you've already written, but you can definitely go to one that you're editing, but one that you're going to write would be better. And write down before you even write the scene, what each character wants from this scene. What do they want to accomplish? What are their goals? And write the scene only from that perspective. Don't think about where the story is going or what your goal is or what plot point you're trying to reach. Just write the scene by thinking what each character wants. Rarely are they going to want the same thing. There's going to be some kind of conflict. And so let that develop over the conversation. And you'll be amazed at the difference. And if you're rewriting something, you'll have the before and the after and see how much better it is when you just let the characters take control and be themselves. And let me know in the comments if you do that. What is the difference? Did you see a difference between the two? And I have a dialogue diagnosis checklist. I'll put in a link on the description down there, and you can download that and go through it and see how your dialogue is doing. Ultimately, your job is to stop being a puppet master and to allow your characters to to drive your story with their wants and what they need. When you give them your agenda, what you're doing is you're also giving them your voice, and that's what you want to avoid. When you're giving them their own voice, you're allowing them to reveal your story's deepest truths that could surprise you and your readers. I hope that this video has helped you rethink dialogue a little bit. If you've liked it, please, of course, like it, subscribe to the channel, share it, and also look at the links below. I am starting a 12-month writing program, and you might want to join that and go through 12 months. I'm also going to create a shorter 12-week one, but for now I have the 12-month one. It's an entire year of going through developing your story from start to finish. All right, so thank you for being here, and I'll see you again next week.